This happened back when I was in college. I was way behind on studying for 3 back-to-back midterms. It was a make or break time for me, or so I thought. As it turns out, I came close to being broken that night. I lived in a big house with several other roommates, with my room being on the first floor. I was hitting the books hard when one of my roommates stopped by my room to see if I wanted some beers. I said no because I had to maintain a clear and steady focus. He said he thought they were going to order pizza and asked if I wanted to pitch in. I said I'd already eaten. He said it was my loss, and he left me to study. About a half hour later, I heard someone knocking at our door. My room was closest to that door, so it was easy for me to hear it at first. Initially, I ignored it, but whoever it was knocked again. I finally put 2 and 2 together and decided my roommates must have ordered a pizza. Since my roommates weren't going to answer the door, it fell to me. Because I wasn't going to be able to study if he kept knocking on that door, I had to go answer it. I went to the door, unlocked it, and swung it open. A scraggly looking guy stood there. I asked if he was delivering pizza. It took him a long time for him to respond, but he said yeah. My head was stuck in my book, so I didn't even notice that he didn't have any pizza. I turned around and yelled to my roommates and went back to my room. A few seconds later, I saw movement outside my door. It was just a flash. Just after that, my girlfriend called and said she had a flat tire and said I needed to come help her. I sighed because I couldn't lose the study time, but she was my girlfriend, so off I went. As I was walking out the door, I thought I heard someone shout something on the second floor of the house. But my girlfriend was waiting, so I had to get going. When I got back to the house later, I saw the place was surrounded by police cars. As it turned out, the pizza delivery guy was really a robber. He'd pulled a gun on my roommates and took all their money and anything he could carry. One of my roommates put up some resistance but got a concussion when the robber whacked him on the head with a gun. I got out of there just in time, and I am eternally grateful for my girlfriend's flat tire. This happened a few years ago. I just started my first job, if that's what you want to call it. It was with a startup, and we made next to nothing with a promise of riches when we hit it big. We all believed we would if we just worked hard enough. That meant working day and night. Our office was in the bad side of town because the rent was cheap. Being the low man on the totem pole, I found myself working late all the time, taking care of the tedious details. One night I thought I was alone, toiling away into the night. The key word was thought. I was pretty engrossed in my work when I heard a noise in the back of the building. It sounded like something thudded against something else. I ignored it because I was heads down in my work. A few seconds later, I heard footsteps from deep inside the building. That immediately got my attention, because I was supposed to be alone. Then again, sometimes my fellow workers would leave and forget to lock the door. That's when I heard footsteps coming down the hall, right toward the room I was working in. There are these times you have these intuitions, like something isn't right. Those footsteps meant trouble. I just knew it. My instincts told me to get up quietly and slowly, and that's what I did. I slid out of my seat and slow walked to a parallel corridor to the one the footsteps were coming from. That's when I stopped to listen. Whoever it was sounded like they were wearing heavy boots because each footfall hit the floor hard. With each footstep, I felt my heart beat faster. There was a sense of menace in those footsteps. I just knew it. I froze in place, afraid to move. If I moved, I was sure I would be heard and I had no idea what would happen, but I did know it wouldn't be good. That's when I heard the front door open, followed by my boss's voice booming in the darkness. He was calling my name, asking if I was still working away in a sing-song voice, sounding a little happy and maybe even a little drunk. That's when I heard the footsteps rush out of the corridor, and that was followed by a large gasp from my boss. He said, "Hey, no!" That's when I heard a loud smacking noise and the sound of a body hitting the floor. I almost let out a scream but held it in. That would have let whoever it was know I was still there. Instead, I tiptoed down the hallway. When I reached the back door, I turned around and saw a dark figure dragging a body across the floor. It was too dark to make out much, but I was 100% sure the body was my boss being dragged along the floor. Something in me decided it was time to run, and I broke for the back door, running all out. I burst out of the door and rushed into the parking lot. My phone was on my desk inside, and my car was parked out front. So I was forced to run down the street until I found a bar that was still open. I ran inside and got the bartender to call 911. I went back to my building just after the police got there. My boss was out cold, laying in a puddle of his own blood. I told the police that I saw someone inside, but they didn't find anyone. My boss ended up in the hospital, but they never caught the man who came into our building. 2 months later, the business went belly up, and I decided startups were not for me.